Welcome to Reimagined Childhood, brought to you by Early Childhood Christian Network, where we equip you with the tools you need so you can confidently care for and teach young children. We know you want to provide the very best early childhood experience for children and for their parents. But sometimes you feel frustrated and ill equipped because the training that's required is not interesting or it's just not applicable to your daily needs in the classroom. In every episode, we reveal practical, applicable strategies to use in your classroom that will create a lasting impact and will help children build the foundations they need for a lifetime of success. It's time to reimagine our approach to childhood. I'm your host, Monica Healer. I'm excited to introduce you to Louisa Forguson today. She is a pastor's wife, mom of 3 wild boys, and a lover of Jesus. After graduating from Texas A&M, she spent a few years in full-time ministry with Young Life in the Dallas area. Since then, she's been instructing children for over 2 decades, most recently serving as curriculum and program specialist at Acorn to Oaks Preschool in Austin, Texas. She has tons of energy, and she uses that energy, her joy and passion for Jesus, to teach kids about the love of our Heavenly Father through songs, dance, and physical play. In today's episode, we actually talk about how transitions in the classroom really matter for children's success and learning. Louisa is in the trenches with you, so she has practical, easily implemented ideas that you can use today. Let's jump right in. Louisa, welcome to the podcast today. We're so glad you're here.
Oh, I am so glad to be here too. Thank you for inviting me. This is exciting.
We are going to talk about a topic that I feel like comes up over and over and over, especially in the spring
Right.
in early childhood, and that is transitions. So let's start out with this. How
Yes.
do you define a transition in early childhood?
With the idea of transition, it's specifically with early childhood, it's like when we move from we're in a situation in which children need to move from one
Mm.
environment or activity or experience to another. So we're taking them from one activity, one situation, and we need to move them to the next. And it seems pretty like self-explanatory, like just go do the next activity. But these are early childhood
Right,
kids. These
right.
are preschoolers. These are 2-year-olds. These are 18 months. They don't naturally know how to line up.
Mm.
So we have to invite them and kind of create a structure for them and a framework to help guide them to the next activities that we have planned throughout the day.
So good. I think sometimes we think a transition just means you're leaving your classroom and going somewhere else. And
Right.
it's really, I think
Right.
we need to remember that transitions actually happen throughout the day within your classroom. It's more than just, hey, I'm
Absolutely.
leaving to go to the
Right.
playground or leaving to go to music or chapel or whatever. It really
Right.
is anytime your children are moving from one activity to another or one environment to
Right.
another. So it's a lot broader, I think, than most of us naturally think of.
It's more than what we think. So, and especially if you are brand new to early childhood.
Mhm.
I began teaching in middle school. And so you would say line up and everybody knows how to line up.
Right.
This is very different with early childhood with kiddos. Um, you move not just to line up to the door to go to the gym or to go outside,
Mhm.
but we counted it up one day and it was like 20 or 30
Yeah.
transitions throughout the day. It is, how do I go and get my lunch? How do I throw my trash away?
Mhm.
If you're a 2, 3, 4-year old, how do I wash my
Yeah,
hands? What's the appropriate way to come to the carpet and sit down for circle time?
right.
How do I get dismissed to go and get my snack, to go and clean up?
Mhm.
All these different elements to, we just think we intrinsically know
Right,
we're old enough, we know to move to the
right.
next activity. These kiddos don't. And so we want to create like a framework for them and an expectation to help them get to these different activities. But it is really shocking to go, oh my gosh, I have to have a plan for how we, move from center time into snack time.
Right.
It's like, yeah, we have to have a plan for that.
Yeah.
We have to invite them into that because they're used to, I mean, kids are used to adults dictating and telling them what to do.
Mm.
Go over here, line up. I
Yeah,
mean, that we are just dictating, we are commanding them
yeah.
versus inviting them. So, how can we invite them into the next activity and give them kind of a format of how to do that?
I love that transition in mindset from thinking we're commanding or instructing to we're inviting
Mhm,
them to
mhm.
do the next thing. I
Right.
think that it allows a little bit
Yeah.
of agency for children
Yeah.
to even though, like, we're not necessarily giving them a choice of, "Hey, we're going to the playground and you don't have to go." But when you invite
Yeah.
a
What
child
would
in
you like to
just a
do?
little
Would you
bit.
rather go to the playground or eat ice cream?
Right. "Hey, I'm eating ice cream on the playground," honestly. But
Yes. On the playground. That's
yeah.
the best time.
Yeah, so talk to me a little bit about this. What do you think are the challenges in transitions for both kids and teachers? Because I think there's kind of a
Right.
mixture, right?
There is, and you also were thinking about the different ages. So we can go anywhere from, we some schools start at 1 years
Right.
old, some start even earlier than that, and you have infants, and then you go to 4 and 5 year olds. And so every developmental
Mm,
stage, there's going to be a
yeah,
challenge for how we transition and how we move. And as kids are growing and developing, I mean, they want autonomy. They're learning independence. And so you have the challenge of a teacher who needs some sort of order and structure.
absolutely.
And hopefully, we're going to learn something, right?
Right,
And so, we want to be able to teach in an environment that's safe and
of
healthy.
course.
But we also have these little human beings, little sinful, we're all sinful creatures, right? Who want to do their own thing.
Right,
And so, how do you mesh the two in a way that's loving? And so, one big issue is when you have the teacher saying, "Hey, I really want us to come and experience this." And you have a 2 year old who's learning, wanting independence and learning the word no. And they say, "No, I'm going to continue to play with Play Doh over here."
yeah,
So, what are some tricks of the trade to help invite them into the next exciting part of the
so
day?
true.
Because it's not just, "I want to teach you something," it's, "Let's come learn," and inviting them into the next learning activity.
Yeah,
So, the biggest challenge, we have kiddos who've never been to school before.
right?
Even 4 and 5 year olds may have never been to school before. This might be the first time. And depending on if you are a 5 day week program or your 2 day week program, if you're 4 hours a day, whatever that looks
Yeah,
like, there's also different structure at home than at school. And so if you have a 2 day program, there's 3 days a week. Well, let's do our math, 5 days a week that the kids are not on your schedule. You have them Tuesday, Thursday.
right,
They are not used to the schedule.
right.
They're used to being maybe at home. It's a little, schedules are a little more lax. So listening, responding, engaging is a challenge
Yeah,
when they come back to school and they're put into this different environment.
sure.
So you have all these different factors. And then a teacher who is amazing and wonderful and has spent hours planning and not getting paid for it and has
Yeah,
created all these beautiful, crafty ideas. And we're going to do STEM and we're going to do all these amazing things, and you can't herd the cats. And
so
maybe it's, you have this beautiful plan in this, fantasy world of what it's going to look like. It's going to look like a Pinterest board. And you know what? The kids just didn't sleep last night, or they had a terrible nap time, or they didn't eat a nutritious breakfast, and it's all falling apart. So you have these really challenging situations of, how do we continue throughout our day learning and engaging in a healthy, loving way with personalities,
yeah,
with
yeah.
outside circumstances and expectations. So all of those are really tricky. But when we can kind of create consistent, a consistent strategy
Mhm,
for what the kids can
mhm.
expect, we create a safe environment.
Yeah,
So when we always sing maybe the same song when it's time to clean up from morning play, morning like free play,
yeah.
that creates safe environment for the kids to say, "Okay, I know it's next." Because
Mm,
the unknown can create anxiety.
absolutely.
And so when the cleanup song comes on, when the teacher starts singing her cleanup chant, "Now it's time to clean up. Now it's time to clean up.
Right.
We've had a lot of fun and now we're done. Now it's time to clean up."
Yep.
The kids know, "Okay, I know what's next.
Yeah.
I will get to do this again tomorrow when I come back. I will get to play this activity later, but right now we're going to move on to something else." Knowing that I can stop this activity, move on to lunch or move on to circle time, and I feel safe, I feel heard, and I feel understood
Mhm.
because I know the expectations. So a lot of people like don't love the idea of like structure and all that, but kids need structure.
Absolutely.
The kids need expectations. They need to know the boundaries for safety and to ease some of that anxiety.
Yeah,
And when that anxiety is eased, when we feel safe, when kids feel safe, some of those behavior and those behavior struggles and those power struggles
Mhm.
dissipate.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think it's important to remember that children are still learning all these things. Like they're learning what it looks like to
Mhm.
stop a behavior and then do something else, or stop
Yes.
an activity and then
Yeah.
go do something else.
Right.
Where it's like you said early on, as adults, we kind of think like it just comes naturally. And the reality is, eventually it does because we've modeled it for them or we've trained them in that way,
Yes.
right? Like we've rewired their
Yes.
brain
Absolutely.
to be able to accept changes. But that's not natural for most of them. And it's like you said,
It's not natural. We
yeah,
Yeah, we're broken, sinful creatures, and we want to do things our way.
yes.
But we are get to be invited
Yeah.
into learning that it's okay to change, and I'll still be
Well,
safe.
and I think a lot of times we need to remember too that so many of our little students, it's like you said, they're spending a lot of time at home
Mhm.
where nobody's asking them to line
Right.
up to get in the car. I mean, I there's three
Absolutely.
sons, and I can
No.
tell you, I never asked them, "Hey, it's time to line up at the door so we can go get in the car to go do whatever." Right? Like, the,
Yeah, I have 3 crazies, and I'm like, "Do you have shoes?
yeah.
Get your dang shoes and get in the car. Come on."
Yeah, but when we're in a classroom,
Yeah.
there are things that are necessary for
Right.
structure, right? So we have to remember as teachers,
Absolutely.
this is natural for them. We will have to train them to
Mhm.
be okay with this environment. I love also that you
Right.
said structure is really necessary for children to feel safe. I think we are
Right.
in an interesting time period right now in parenting and education both, where we think that just leaving children.
Absolutely.
I mean, I'm all about giving kids agency. I think they should have choice.
Right.
They should have time
Absolutely.
for free play,
They should.
extended time for free play. And also,
Absolutely.
structure is important for children to understand that there are boundaries in life that are necessary for
Absolutely.
flourishing in community. And that means you don't always get what you
Right.
want. You don't get as much time as you always want. And
No.
you're okay when that happens. There's a great resilience that's taught in that
Absolutely.
learning how to accept a transition. But again, it's a
Absolutely.
process. It's a process for
It's
children.
a process. And I love what you said about, like, I think about how our preschool has become, we're licensed now,
Mhm.
which
Yay!
is challenging in itself. But the freedom to just go run out to, the open field is not as much of an option anymore. You have to put your structure up. You have to have a little bit of a fence. But that doesn't mean free play isn't happening within.
Right. Oh, absolutely.
You're just giving a boundary, and boundaries are safe because if we don't have boundaries, we run in the street and we get hurt.
So true. So true. Okay, so give me some really practical things on how can we make transitions easier
Okay.
and fun? Because the reality is if we're just authoritarian in trying to enforce transitions, it's not gonna
Nope.
work for you. Like our natural tendency is to fight back, and children will struggle
Yes.
with you. That's called a power struggle with a 2-year-old, and none of
Oh,
us
yeah.
wanna do that.
Yes. No one wins. Nobody wins in that one.
No.
Everybody has a bad day.
Yeah,
Nope, nobody wins.
yeah,
There's just some simple things of make it simple, keep it simple.
yeah.
Brand new folks, like things that I really love. I love games. I love chants and I love
Mm,
songs. And I guess actually there's three. There's chants and songs, there are games, and there are props. Just some easy things to kind of keep in your back pocket. Um, Chants and songs, I love to make up chants. Um, when I chant to a kid and we say, 1, 2, 3, all eyes on me. Who is listening quietly? They love, all of a sudden their
mm,
eyeballs are like focused in on you.
yeah,
But if we don't have our own little chants and songs that we love to sing, like literally, I walk around just making things up.
sure.
People are like, "Oh, where did you get your song?" Well, I made it up. I said, "Oh, Sarah's wearing blue. How do you do? Line up at the door, 1 and 2." I mean, just making them up as we
Sure.
go. But there's so many on like YouTube music, all sorts of cute, fun songs that are out there. Um, and nowadays, we all have, most folks have some sort of little speaker in the phone. We've got in the classroom, we've got Bluetooth. I used to love to get one of those little speakers that you kind of put on your belt, like it like clips on.
Yeah,
You can clip it on your belt. You can wear a little fanny pack because fanny packs are cool. They're back.
yeah,
That's what I think. I think fanny packs are back.
they are.
And you have your little speaker. I know you have your little speaker on you all the time,
Great idea.
or you have a speaker in the classroom, or Alexa. Like the kids are hilarious. The kids are like, Alexa, play the cleanup song. I mean, they know how to tell Alexa to play the cleanup song. Alexa, cancel. My Alexa just played it.
Your Alexa is listening.
Yes,
Oops.
they're listening to us. So this idea of just songs,
Mhm.
songs that are already pre-made out there.
Yeah.
that you can just play, and it's a cleanup song. And the kids know, oh, I'm cleaning up, it's time to go. The lineup song, I'm gonna line up, it's time to go. Hand washing song. You don't have to make them up. They're already out there. Let's don't reinvent the wheel. But let's play this music, let's play these songs, let's say our chants, and just have the same ones over and over again. It's okay.
Yeah.
We don't have to reinvent the wheel every time. Let's keep it simple and let's keep it
Yeah.
consistent. Because when they hear the song, they know, oh, I can clean up. And it creates this independence.
Hmm.
All of a sudden, they hear the song and they know, oh, it's time for me to put my lunch away.
Yeah.
We're moving on to the next thing, and something really fun is happening next. So, really simple. You can just have some really fun songs. I keep some saved on my phone,
Yeah.
and the Bluetooth is always connected, and I just play it. And people are like, always have your phone away. We're not playing on our phone. I'm
Right.
not here
Sure.
like playing solitaire. I'm playing some music.
Yeah.
So that's a really simple one. Also, having in your back pocket a couple of chants.
Mm.
And I love attention grabbing
Yeah.
chants. It's getting their attention.
Yeah.
And a lot of like I say, you say, like macaroni and cheese, everybody freeze. And we say the first one, they say the second part. I go, you go is what I call it. Any of these chants, like we have a class and they're the owl class. And our teacher Miss Emily would always say, owl class. And then the class goes, whoo,
Oh,
whoo,
that's
and
excellent.
everyone
I love it.
freezes. Isn't that awesome?
Yeah.
It's problem now. Miss Emily's class is now the raccoons, and I don't know what raccoons say. They might go, I don't know what the raccoons do. But so if you have a chant, I go, you go, I have a chant, the kiddos know the response,
Right.
and the natural reaction to the response is I freeze and now I have your attention.
Yeah.
Because now as a teacher, I can give the next instruction. So those are just some really quick, simple ones. Even if we just have our 1, 2, 3, all eyes on
Yeah.
me, that one's real quick. We can use it all the time.
Yeah.
So you have your chants, you've got some songs, props are really good. I was never good. I always lose my phone. I lose everything. So props, I never had them with me. But some of our super organized teachers who have all the pockets and everything, they've got their red light, green light
Yeah.
that they use for walking in the hall, red light, green light. Or if you have in your room, we have a big, what do you call it? Traffic light.
Yeah.
And so you move your traffic light, your light from yellow to, hey, we're getting ready to stop playing. And then we move it to red, which means, okay, it's time to move on.
Ooh, that's
So
great.
props are really helpful too, musical instruments, things like that. Those are real simple that you can just start with. You can always have at the ready. And then I love to have some games kind of in the back of my head ready to go.
Mhm.
Because let's say we're moving down the hallway and we need to go to chapel. But guess what? We get to chapel because we're on time. And we lined up really well because everybody cleaned up and everybody lined up.
Right.
And we walked down the hall like we were ducks and it was awesome. We got there, but the 2-year-old class hasn't left yet. So we're in the hallway.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh no, now there's a
We gotta
pause. What
wait.
do I do? We gotta wait. And so waiting games are so fantastic.
Yeah.
Waiting
Great
games
idea.
of all of a sudden the wall becomes a magnet. And we're stuck to the
I
wall.
love that.
And then guess what? Nobody's moving. Nobody's moving. They're stuck. It could be glue also. Or we've got our just the old standby of Miss Louisa says touch your nose. Miss Louisa says pat your head. Miss Louisa says stand on your one foot. And then the kids get to take turns doing it.
Right.
Any sort of game that you have at the ready, because transition isn't just moving, it's also
It absolutely is.
waiting for the
Right?
next thing.
And I think that's an important thing to note just in general. When children have downtime, they find ways to entertain themselves. And sometimes that
And
downtime is
usually,
listen, what we want is we want to be the entertainment. We want to be the ones who are offering that structure. So there
look
is
here,
not downtime.
look at me.
Well, they will find their
Absolutely.
own.
I
Just know
know.
it. They will find their own
They are
entertainment,
so smart.
and it won't be what you want.
They're no, it won't be what you want. And they're going to move
Yeah.
and they're going to talk and they're going to wiggle. And so if we can help direct them in the way to move, talk, or
Yep.
wiggle, everybody's life is happier.
Absolutely. Those are the things that I think a lot of teachers struggle with too in the classroom is you think that there's what I saw the other day, I was in a classroom and the children were washing their hands, but teachers were helping. And then the kids who were done washing
Mhm.
hands were just kind of milling around because there wasn't really anything for them to do,
Right.
which teachers did
Absolutely.
not recognize as downtime because the teachers were crazy working
Absolutely.
hard trying to help kids get their hands.
Working hard.
But for the children, it was downtime. And so there wasn't a true transition activity for them to participate in. So I would say in any of those kind of waiting periods where some of the kids are waiting, maybe some of the
Absolutely.
kids are involved in something,
Hmm.
have something in your back pocket to do.
Right.
I love the idea of waiting games. I think putting on even things like freeze dance
Hmm.
or something on your phone where kids still have
Absolutely.
something to do, even while you
Right.
might be busy helping somebody or
Right.
whatever needs to be done.
Yeah.
But the kids don't need downtime. They need transition activities.
They don't. They need and I love that transition activities, even when we as teachers might not be directing it, because you're right. We can't always, ideally, in the perfect situation, if you have a lead teacher and an assistant teacher or two co-teachers, one is assisting with the hand washing and the other is assisting with the transition period or moving to the next activity. But that's not always the case. Things happen. Somebody spills something on the ground, somebody is needs help in the bathroom.
Mhm,
But you're right, like I love songs
mhm.
that have actions to them that the kids already know.
Yep.
So you can go ahead and put this on, and we know we're going to do the goldfish song, and we know how to do the movements to the goldfish song because we've done it multiple times.
Yep.
And so that's on playing, and kids are being supervised because the teacher's in the room, but the teacher doesn't have to always, we don't always have to be leading
Right,
the transition
right,
activity, but because we've
right.
practiced, we've used it, we've had consistency, repetition, and it's
Yeah,
simple.
I would say these sorts of activities are definitely ones that you have taught them over and over. They can be
Yes,
self-sufficient, and I would say most
right.
of the time that's not a 2-year-old classroom. Like, you might be able to do something like freeze dance or something like that in a 2s. 3s and 4s can some of these
Maybe.
games on their own.
Absolutely. And of course
Yeah.
it's hard when you're thinking, "Oh, how do I like an 18-month classroom?" Like that's going to be a little bit different. But a freeze dance with scarves.
Sure,
I mean, scarves can keep kiddos occupied
absolutely.
forever. And 18-month loves scarves. And you put the scarves out there and their little freeze dance.
Mhm.
And especially if you have a freeze dance that you have already pre-recorded or
Yeah,
you found one that has the stops in it
yeah.
already. So yeah, all of these things are like, how can we plan ahead for any possible situations? And that's part of transition because we don't know what's going to happen.
I'm interrupting this episode really quickly to share something special. It's time for our annual 2-day summer conferences. I'd love to invite you to join us on July 10th and 11th in Georgetown, Texas. That's just north of Austin. Or August 7th and 8th in Louisville, Texas. That's in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Each event includes a variety of breakout sessions to equip early educators at every level. Whether you're a first-year newbie or a decade seasoned veterans, we're bringing in highly qualified, dynamic presenters to lead breakout sessions on every topic you can think of for every age group from birth to kindergarten. Would you like a sneak peek at our keynote speakers this year? Well, listen up. On Thursday, we'll start the day with Dr. Tyler Groves, the author of Growing with One Another, Social and Emotional Learning in Christian Perspective. Then Thursday afternoon, we'll hear from Kristen Mathis and Kendra Worley as they present an active, practical, movement-focused approach to teacher and preschooler regulation from a trauma-informed, brain-friendly, polyvagal approach with a spiritual, biblical basis. Whoa, that was a mouthful, but it's gonna be fun. Then on Friday morning, we'll hear from Dr. Cynthia Small about building family relationships and partnerships for the benefit of the kingdom of God. And we'll finish up our 2 days of learning with a concert by children's worship leader and songwriter Yancey. Registration is open from April 1st until about a week before each event. We'd love to host you either near Austin or in the Dallas-Fort Worth area this summer. Where will you join us this conference season? Check out all of our upcoming events on our website, www.earlychildhoodchristiannetwork.com. And now, let's finish up this episode. The other thing I wanted to talk about is transitions. I think are sometimes we see them as filler time, and I think
Mhm.
that transitions are actually a beautiful time to add instruction day. Like when you
Absolutely.
plan transition, you actually plan developmentally appropriate activities that are part of
Hmm.
instruction for students. So talk to me a little bit
Absolutely.
about that. How can we use transitions as instruction?
That, and I think you hit the nail on the head with that of let's don't miss any
Mhm.
opportunity to teach. Let's don't miss any opportunity to instruct. And if you get back, like, of course, teachers feel of in this field, we don't get paid enough.
Right.
We don't. We we
Certainly,
do this out of, Jesus called us to it
we
and we
don't do
love it.
this for the money.
We don't do it for the money. Sorry. Um, and the hours in the day for the plan. It's so hard to think, oh my word, am I supposed to plan not only the lessons, but plan my transitions?
Mhm.
If we let the two kind of merge together. So let's say we're talking about my body is
Yeah,
healthy, and that is our unit. I'm just choosing one off the top of my,
yeah.
head. Our school, we have units that go across from infant all the way to 5 year olds, 4 or 5 year olds, and they are similar units, and we try to keep them, at the same time during the
Sure.
year. But one is like my body is healthy, I have a healthy body, whatever. And we're talking about like body parts. Well, if we're on the carpet and we need to line up at the door, maybe we are using a game where we are identifying parts of our
Mm,
body
yeah,
of let's play the drum on our tummy, rum bum bum, rum bum
yeah,
bum. Line up at the door, drum in your tummy, rum bum bum, rum bum
yeah.
bum. Different body parts, head, shoulders, knees, and toes, make up all sorts of things, eyebrows,
Mhm.
you know,
Yeah,
chin, clavicle, we wouldn't do clavicle, but whatever. If you're doing body parts, if you're doing colors, this one is one of my favorite. The hardest part for me was at pickup
yeah,
when I was the assistant teacher and my lead teacher was meeting, like we're supposed to, meeting the parents at the door, giving them a little synopsis of the day. How do we do? Helping them, giving a high five to each student as they're leaving. And of course, left with these beautiful, wonderful 4 and 5 year olds who are tired
yeah.
and want to go home and they're running crazy.
Well, and they're like, "Why
And
isn't
they
my
still
mom
needed to
the first
move.
one? Why do I have to wait
Yeah, I
for
want to go
somebody?"
home. Yeah. And they're tired of reading. Like we've sat, we've read enough,
Yeah,
But we turned into like, what did we learn for today? Our colors that we've learned so far in the
yeah,
year are red, green, and blue. So what we're gonna do is around the room, I'm gonna say, everybody, tiptoe to and touch the color blue.
mhm,
And so everybody tiptoes around the room, or you can have them crawl or hop
mhm.
or whatever, walk in slow motion, and they all have to go find and touch something that's blue
Yeah,
or go and find touch something that's red. Maybe we're learning the number 5. Let's go, everybody go and grab me 5 things from, or 5 Legos from the Lego box.
yeah,
And they come and they bring them to you and we count them out. What we're doing is we're kind of time filler, but we're learning in our time filler, in our
that's true.
waiting time period. If we're walking down the hall, are we, and our letter of the week is B,
Yeah,
the letter B. Everything that we're engaging in that day is the letter B. So if we're walking down the hall, we're going to walk down as bumblebees. Let's be
uh,
bumblebees. B goes bzzz. And then maybe when after we wash our hands and we're walking outside for a recess, maybe we're going to walk like bears. How do bears walk?
yeah,
Bear. So using these letters, whatever letter we're using, we're going to be those
yeah.
animals. We had something that we used to love to do. It was when you I didn't realize you could buy these at Lakeshore or whatever, but we made them. I made them from scratch. But alphabet soup
Yeah,
cans. And so we made an alphabet soup can for each letter. And we had pictures of each little something that started with the letter A, something that started with the
yeah,
letter C. And before a student could go and get their lunch, they had to pull out one of our little pictures from our letter C soup
yeah.
can, tell us what it was, and how do you pronounce? Okay, so it's a cat. Cat says cat. And then they put it back in and they get to go get their
Awesome.
lunch. So having students move or rotate or take turns engaging whatever lesson we're learning at
Yeah,
the time. And it's not that hard. It really isn't. And it doesn't take a lot of planning. But how do we incorporate what we're currently
mhm,
learning into how they line up, how they
mhm.
move, what chants we're doing? And they're still engaging in that activity and they're engaging in that learning. And then another bonus, if you're doing that in the classroom, while parents are picking up, they're thinking, "Oh my goodness, my kids are still
Yeah,
learning. My kids are learning till the very last moment." They're not like the teacher's not in the corner rocking, the
I
kids are
know,
running
right?
amok. You're still keeping that
Yeah,
engagement. So any of those activities, songs, letter shape, animal walk. I love an animal walk down the
yeah, me
hall,
too.
color lineup. I'm just thinking in my brain, oh, this one with the way that I engage and I love to learn is kinetically too. I love like
Yeah,
movement and we've got kids who I've got boys. My own children are boys and they need, all the kinesthetic learning. They need to move,
absolutely.
making letters on the ground. That was a great waiting activity,
Yeah.
especially if it's carpeted,
Yeah.
we're in the and if it's not carpeted, it's fine. I know that we clean our floors. It's okay to lay on the floor. But having the kids make shapes of letters or even like shapes, circles, rectangle
Yeah.
squares with their
Yeah.
bodies on the ground. That's learning. It's fun. They're excited about it.
Yeah.
And they are still within the structure and boundary of where we need them to be to move through a healthy, successful day of school.
Yeah. I think sometimes we as teachers underestimate the learning that actually happens in the little things that we do all day.
Right.
So I think
Hmm.
it'd be great to just if you could pause and think about, okay, even some of the chants like macaroni and cheese, everybody freeze. What are children learning in
Right.
that? I mean, like in my mind, I'm going immediately to macaroni and cheese, everybody freeze. Okay, we're learning rhyming. Yay. Okay, that's part of transition. And we're
Yeah,
already teaching
absolutely.
or in
Right.
that macaroni and cheese, everybody freeze. Like in call and
Hmm.
response. What are we learning with call and response? Oh, we're learning self control. We're learning listening skills. Like, as
Absolutely. All of these
recognize that
things.
your transition time is going to naturally be instruction time if you do it
It
intentionally,
is.
right?
It's instruction.
And even some of the things
Absolutely.
that
The idea of
we're walking like bears, right? If you are stomping like bears, you're
Mhm.
actually doing gross motor development. Like, think through that
Gross motor
and
development.
recognize that you bring an incredible amount of
Yeah,
value in these little things that we're doing with children.
right.
So you can add
Because our
even
body
small thing like buzzing like a bee. Like what if they pretended they were a little bee, right? Like then we're working on pincer
Mhm,
grasp or grabbing a little bee. We're
mhm,
stomping the bee as we're walking. So we're using our pincer grasp. Like there's so many ways that I think you could use transition just with regular developmental activities without even really doing any extra work as a teacher. Like it doesn't take a lot of extra
right.
time to plan those things.
No. And you don't even like you said, take a minute to pause because we don't even realize we're
You're already
giving
doing
that opportunity for the kiddos to learn them.
like you're already doing it.
Yeah,
Just step back and think, what are you doing? Because I mean, most of you are already doing transitions anyway. Just stop and think,
right.
how is this transition
Yes.
actually benefiting development? Because chances are it already is. And I'd encourage you,
Yes.
hopefully, that will encourage you as an educator to say, hey, no, I am actually doing important work with these children, even when it feels like I'm hurting kittens. Like,
Yeah, you're like, "I'm an expert. I
yeah,
can't believe I'm already doing this and I didn't realize it. Look
absolutely.
how smart you guys are. You didn't even know." But I think it's so true when you said the whole idea of body
Yeah.
awareness too. A lot of this is body
Yes.
awareness. And then the call and response and the repetition, all of that. That is actually like early literacy is the repetition and the rhyme and the rhythm and all of that. And I think you are so right on when we want to go ahead and applaud teachers for already doing some of this stuff. But like you said, being aware of
Yeah.
it allows you to even develop it in ways that you didn't realize you
Yeah.
could.
Yeah.
So I love that.
It's once again, for me, it's one of those, I want y'all to recognize the value of what you already do. You're doing a lot of
Mhm.
really important work. And these things that, like
Right.
transitions, that sometimes feel like filler are actually really valuable to child development. Like it doesn't, it matters, right? Like every tiny thing that you do during the day matters in the development of children. And I want you to recognize it. Like you're not wasting your time when you're planning these activities, when you're intentionally doing transitions, when you're training children on what the next thing is in the
Right.
room to calm their brains, to ease anxiety, to ease,
Mhm.
you're actually making it easier for them to learn by being intentional.
You absolutely. And I think one thing too that you kind of mentioned, but no time is wasted. Let's say we've planned this beautiful picture perfect. I use Pinterest. I use the idea of Pinterest because that is like an expectation I could never hit, this idea
Absolutely.
of this
Yeah.
perfect idea of what this lesson is going to be. And even if it goes
Right.
awry, they're still learning, they're still engaging. It's always a learning
Yeah.
experience. So I want to give that encouragement to us, to all educators, to remind myself that even if it looks different than what we
Yeah.
planned, we have intentionally created these learning experiences and they still know they're
Yeah.
loved. They're still learning social, emotional interaction. They're still learning how to process. They're learning independence. They're learning gross motor. Nothing is being Nothing is being forgotten. Nothing is being
Right.
missed, even if it looks a little
Right.
different.
Well, and I think that's the importance too of just pausing as an educator. Pause at the end of the day and reflect on your day. What did the kids actually
Right.
learn? Even if my day felt crazy and disjointed
Hmm.
and the kids didn't have good snacks or what, like they ate a bunch of sugar this weekend. What actually happened in my day that was learning? Because I bet if you pause, I mean, 5 minutes at the end of the day and go, what was it
Yeah,
that these children actually learned today? Maybe all they learned was it's okay to fail. It's okay to fail.
it's
You're
okay.
still
You're still
loved,
loved.
cared for. We can't wait to see you back tomorrow.
Yes,
That's still an important life lesson for them to learn. Or maybe today is the
absolutely.
day that that one child who's been struggling so much was finally successful at an activity that you're trying and working on. Like
Absolutely.
maybe you'll have a great celebration and maybe you'll have a teeny tiny celebration, but that pausing just a moment to go, what did we do today? Truly,
Hmm.
what did we learn today? I bet that even as teachers, like I'm believe me, I am coming back to transition on it. I feel like that's the transition for us at the end of the day. Just
Absolutely.
to pause
And
for
are
a
we
moment and say,
and doing it in community
yeah,
too?
yeah. Well, to
Like sharing that. I love what you
yeah,
said.
absolutely. I think sharing with your co-teacher, sharing with the
Right.
rest of your staff, even, I mean, maybe even in a morning meeting or
Mhm.
something with your team to be able to go, hey,
Right.
yesterday was a crazy day at my classroom, but
Right.
I noticed that I learned how to stay calm even when the classroom was
Yes.
chaotic, or I learned I that I was okay even though the class felt messy.
Yeah.
You know, like those are great things for us as educators to remember. These are part of our transitions into and out of our day too. And those are important
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Those are important too.
I love that idea of us step transition too.
Okay.
What do we need as educators? How do we need to
I mean,
transition?
listen, I feel like that could be a whole nother I feel like that could be a whole other
It could
episode.
be.
I mean,
Whole other episode of how
yeah.
we care for each other and
Oh,
transition as teachers. All right, put that down on your list.
I'm
Schedule that.
writing it down. We're gonna brainstorm a little bit. Like this would be a great new episode or new breakout session at one of our conferences. So, last
Oh, I like it.
question, Louisa. Thanks for all the information today, by the way. But last
Yes, ma'am.
question. We call our podcast Reimagined Childhood, and I like to ask all of our guests
Okay.
if there was one thing you could reimagine about our approach to early childhood right
Mm,
now, what would that be?
right. Oh, if I lived in a perfect world where we didn't have, I know we have laws and we've got
Yeah, we're good.
licensing and all of that. I know. But if I had a world where I didn't have licensing and all of the above, freedom to play,
Yeah.
for kiddos to just play and explore. I feel as though we have such a short period of time before we send them in, regardless of if it's a private school or a homeschool situation or a public school, wherever
Yeah.
the students go, kiddos go after early childhood, the window is so small. It's such a small, tiny time frame where they can just explore
Yeah.
and be and play and letting kids get messy and dirty and take their shoes off. And I know we can't let them climb trees, but kind of.
Could we though?
I love, I don't know. I would love, like, I wish we could have that wonder. I want my kids that I'm teaching to have
Yeah.
that wonder, that heart of exploration, to see this world that the Lord has
Yeah.
created. The idea of process, and I know this is discussed a lot when we talk about like art, process versus
Right.
product. But our world is a product world.
Absolutely.
What if we could let early childhood just be
Mhm.
process? Let's let them experience. Let's let them get their hands dirty and messy. If art were just like supplies on a table, explore. Explore what that looks like for
Yeah.
you. Explore ooey gooey, feel
Yeah.
it, touch it, tangible. Go outside and explore. I know that's not specific, but as I was kind of thinking through and
Yeah.
brainstorming, like, what do I feel like we fight against?
Mhm.
We have to fight against a structured framework of academics and sitting in a classroom. And I'll be honest, as a teacher, it's hard to let kiddos just go and explore. It's hard. It's hard to take our kids outside. It's hard to get things messy and dirty. And so I don't have like wish I had like, these are the 5 steps, but sometimes when I'm thinking and praying through what my lessons might look like, I had this co-teacher, Kristen and we would talk about something and we're like, oh, that sounds really messy. That activity sounds so hard. I guess that's God telling us we should do it. How can we let them explore, get their hands dirty, have some freedom, fun, but with that is always structured.
You're so right, Louisa. Those hard activities are actually the ones that are the most fun. Today was such a fun conversation. Thanks for taking time to be with me today. I am grateful for your willingness to share, and I love how your passion just comes through and how you love young kids and how you think they should have a fun day every day, even in things like transition. So, Louisa, thanks so much for being here today. I loved this conversation so much. Didn't you get a lot of practical ideas from her? From chants and songs to props to just fun added throughout the day. I feel like she made transition seem a little easier and a little less stressful and scary. We actually at ECCN have a whole set of printable attention-getting chants on the resources page of our website. So if you need them, we'll link them in the show notes so you can download and make it easy for you to have them close by. I'm going to remind you one more time. Every moment counts with these young children in your classroom. You're probably already doing a whole lot of what we talked about today. So I just want to affirm you. You are making a difference. Children are naturally learning from everyday interactions and routines all the time. Don't underestimate them. I can't wait to hear your favorite ways to make transitions more fun for your students. Let us know via social media or send us an email. We always love hearing from y'all. Thanks so much for listening to this episode of Reimagined Childhood with Early Childhood Christian Network, where you'll get practical ideas to implement in your classroom today. You might even be challenged to change your mind about a few things, and you'll always be reminded that your work matters. If you love this episode, would you subscribe and then share it with your coworkers, friends, and family? You can connect with us on a regular basis on Instagram at Early Childhood Christian Net. That's Early Childhood Christian Net. And on Facebook at Early Childhood Christian Network. Remember to visit our show notes for more great resources. We're so glad you're here. See you next time.